My sister smirked at the will reading. Poor sis, Dad left you nothing, guess being the black sheep pays nothing. She high-fived our brother. The lawyer coughed. There's a second will. Conditional on a drug test. Her face drained white. The test kit was already on the table. My sister's smirk burned into me the second the lawyer read my father's words. Poor sis, Dad left you nothing, guess being the black sheep pays nothing. Her voice rang in the quiet office, cruel and sharp. Before I could even blink, she leaned toward our brother, and their palms smacked together in a celebratory high five, like children cheering over a prize. It wasn't just the words that stung. It was the way she savored my pain as if my humiliation were the highlight of her day. My throat tightened, but I sat still, refusing to give her the tears she wanted. The lawyer's office felt colder that day, though a small lamp glowed weakly on his desk. The scent of old leather and wood polish filled the room, mixing with the faint rustle of papers. The heavy oak table between us seemed less like furniture and more like a barrier. On one side my siblings basking in triumph. On the other me silent, cornered, yet unbroken. Sunlight strained through the blinds, striping my sister's smirk with lines of light and shadow, almost like fate itself wanted to warn her. But she didn't notice. She thought she had won. Her mocking laugh kept circling in my head as the lawyer continued. I remembered every time she had said those words before. Black sheep. At family dinners when I voiced opinions she didn't agree with, she'd smirk and whisper it under her breath. At Christmas gatherings when I gave simpler gifts, she'd repeat it with a laugh, making sure the relatives heard. I had grown used to swallowing that insult, letting it sink into me like a stone I couldn't throw back. Yet here in the reading of my father's will, those words cut deeper than ever. My father was gone, and she had turned his last message into her victory speech. My brother, ever her shadow, leaned back in his chair, grinning in her direction as though her cruelty was entertainment. He never spoke much in these moments, he didn't need to. His loyalty to her was silent but obvious. Together they were a united front, always stronger in numbers, always eager to remind me that I was alone. Watching them laugh in the face of our father's memory made my stomach twist, but I forced myself to breathe, to remain still. Sometimes silence is not weakness, it's preparation. The lawyer, however, was not blind to the tension. His steady voice wavered just slightly and then he coughed, a sharp sound that interrupted my sister's laughter. She glanced at him, irritated, but he pressed on. There is, he began, his tone firmer now, a second will. Her smirk faltered. Just a flicker, but I saw it. For the first time in that entire meeting, my sister's face betrayed uncertainty. My brother shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his confidence leaking away as he leaned forward to listen. I didn't move, but inside a spark ignited. The lawyer adjusted his glasses, his gaze steady on the papers before him. This will, he explained, is conditional. Specific, binding, and to be respected as my client's final intention. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a small box, setting it gently on the polished wood. The sound of it clicking against the table was louder than thunder. My sister's smirk collapsed completely. Her lips parted, her eyes darted to the box and back to the lawyer, her posture suddenly stiff. I recognized that look. I had seen it in smaller moments over the years, whenever she was caught in a lie or cornered in her own games. But this time it was different. This time she couldn't laugh her way out. The lawyer opened the box, revealing a sealed drug test kit. The inheritance under this will, he continued calmly, is conditional on a successful test. Silence. The word echoed inside me like a secret I had waited years to hear. I glanced at my brother. His grin had vanished. He looked at her, confused, searching for answers. She stared at the box, her skin pale, her hands tightening on the chair's armrests. My mind raced back to moments I had buried. Her sudden disappearances, her mood swings hidden behind excuses, her whispered conversations on the phone late at night. I had noticed them all, but I had never said a word. She believed my silence was ignorance, but it was survival. And now, that silence had transformed into the sharpest blade I could wield. This is absurd, she snapped suddenly, her voice too loud for the quiet room. Dad would never humiliate us like this. But her tone cracked at the edges, betraying her fear. Her fingers twitched on the leather armrest, nails scraping the surface. The lawyer didn't flinch. He pushed the box closer to the center of the table. I stayed quiet. For years they had mistaken my quiet for weakness, but now it became my shield, my strength. I didn't need to argue, didn't need to gloat. The truth was already in the room, sitting on that table, waiting to strip away her mask. She turned to my brother, her eyes begging him for support. But he shifted uneasily, his usual confidence shaken. For once he didn't rush to her side. He couldn't. The fear in her eyes was undeniable, and even he could see it. The lawyer leaned back, his tone final. The will is clear. No test, no claim. I watched my sister's smirk dissolve into panic. For the first time it wasn't me under the weight of judgment. It was her. And in that moment, as the silence pressed heavy around us, I realized something powerful. I didn't have to fight her anymore. The truth would fight for me. Her face told the story better than any words ever could. The smirk she wore so proudly just minutes earlier was gone. In its place was panic, raw, unfiltered, impossible to hide. Her eyes darted to the box in the center of the table as though it were a weapon pointed at her. I watched the twitch in her jaw, the way her perfectly painted lips trembled despite her efforts to hold them firm. For years she had been the picture of control. Flawless outfits, rehearsed smiles, and an air of superiority she carried into every room. But right now her mask was cracking, and I savored every second of it. The silence between us grew heavier. My brother, who had been her loyal shadow since childhood, suddenly seemed unsure of where to place himself. He shifted in his chair, his smirk replaced with an uneasy frown. His fingers tapped nervously against the table's edge. He avoided my eyes but glanced repeatedly at my sister, waiting for her to guide him like she always did. The power dynamic, one that had always left me at the margins, was shifting. For once I wasn't the one being dismissed. It was her. "You can't be serious," she hissed, finally breaking the silence. Her voice was strained, higher than usual, betraying a tremor beneath the surface. "This is absurd. I don't need to prove anything. Dad trusted me." The lawyer didn't blink. He clasped his hands on the desk and spoke with the same firm calmness he had carried from the start. "The condition is written clearly. This was your father's instruction. Without compliance you forfeit your claim. That is the reality." Her eyes widened, and for the first time in years she seemed small in that grand chair. She glanced at my brother again, silently begging for him to jump in, to rescue her, to do what he always did, reinforce her dominance. But he didn't. He sat stiff, caught between loyalty and self-preservation. His silence was louder than anything he could have said. As I watched them, my mind wandered to the many times I had caught glimpses of her double life. The excuses she gave for missing family dinners, too much work, too many deadlines, but always paired with a strange restlessness in her eyes. The late-night calls she brushed off as business, yet her voice would drop to a whisper laced with irritation and secrets. The sudden weekend trips that never quite added up, always leaving a trail of unanswered questions. I remembered one afternoon in particular. I had stopped by her house unannounced, carrying a box of old photographs to share. She looked startled, almost guilty, as she rushed me into the living room. I noticed the disarray in the kitchen. Glasses half filled, a jacket on the floor, curtains drawn tightly though it was midday. She insisted I couldn't stay long, making up excuses about a meeting. At the time I brushed it off, convincing myself I was imagining things. Now sitting in that lawyer's office, those memories clicked together like puzzle pieces I had ignored for too long. Her hand shot out suddenly, pushing the box away from her. "This is humiliating," she snapped. "It's beneath us. Beneath me. My father would never want me to be treated like a criminal." The lawyer leaned forward, his voice unwavering. "Your father wanted honesty above appearances. That is why he placed this condition. It is not negotiable." She froze. For once she didn't have a clever comeback. She had spent her whole life cultivating an image of perfection. Successful career, designer clothes, the daughter who never faltered. She thrived on comparison, always reminding me of where I fell short. Yet now, in front of the one man who carried our father's last wishes, her golden image was breaking apart piece by piece. I stayed quiet, letting the silence work in my favor. My stillness unnerved her more than anger ever could. She had always expected me to fight, to protest, to lose control so she could laugh at my weakness. But here I gave her nothing. And that nothing was louder than all her noise combined. She tried again, her voice trembling. "What if I refuse? What if I walk out right now?" The lawyer didn't hesitate. Then the estate passes to the next eligible heir. That was your father's instruction. Her head whipped toward me, her eyes narrowing. For a brief moment, I saw the realization dawn on her, that her fate was no longer in her hands, and that my silence had carried more power than she ever imagined. She opened her mouth as if to hurl another insult, but no words came. Only the sound of her unsteady breathing filled the room. My brother shifted again, his voice low for the first time. Maybe you should just do it, he muttered, avoiding her eyes. The look she gave him was venomous, betrayal flashing in her glare. For the first time, cracks appeared not just in her mask but in their unshakable alliance. He leaned back, folding his arms, clearly torn but unwilling to tether himself to her sinking ship. I could almost feel the shift in the air, as though years of imbalance were finally tipping in my favor. My silence was no longer their proof of weakness. It was my weapon, sharp and steady. I didn't need to expose her lies, didn't need to drag out the rumors I had ignored for so long. She was unraveling all on her own, every twitch, every protest, every nervous glance exposing the truth she fought so hard to bury. I folded my hands calmly on the table, keeping my eyes steady on hers. I didn't speak and I didn't smile. But inside I felt something I hadn't felt in years. A quiet surge of strength. The room was still, so still that I could hear the faint hum of the ceiling fan above us. My sister's breathing was uneven, shallow, betraying the panic she tried so desperately to contain. The lawyer pushed the box closer across the table, the sleek plastic glinting under the dim light. Her eyes followed it like prey trapped in the hunter's gaze. Now, the lawyer said, his voice low but unshakable, we proceed. Her hands twitched at her sides. She glanced toward the door as though escape was possible, but her brother made no move to shield her this time. He sat back, eyes narrowed, as if watching a stranger instead of the sister he had once worshipped. This is ridiculous, she muttered, her voice thinner now, laced with desperation. You can't honestly expect me to here? In this office? The lawyer didn't blink. It must be done here. That was your father's condition. Her manicured fingers brushed over the box, trembling. For a moment she pulled her hand back as though it burned her. I need more time. You can't spring this on me without warning. The lawyer met her gaze squarely. This was your father's choice. Not mine. Not your brother's. Not your sister's. His. Her throat worked as if swallowing stones. The authority in his voice left her no room to argue, yet she tried anyway. Dad trusted me. He never doubted me. This is insulting. Her tone rose, but instead of commanding, it cracked like fragile glass. I stayed silent, watching her unravel piece by piece. For once, I didn't need to defend myself. She was destroying her own fortress brick by brick, and every excuse she threw sounded more hollow than the last. Finally, she snatched the kit from the table with a sharp motion. The plastic crinkled in her hands and she fumbled with it, her composure slipping like sand through her fingers. She laughed suddenly, too loud, too forced. Fine. If this circus makes you happy, then so be it. But her eyes, darting restless, told another story. My brother shifted uncomfortably. Just get it over with, he muttered, his voice tight. For the first time there was no loyalty in his tone. He sounded tired, almost ashamed. The test began. The room filled with the faint rustle of plastic and the uneven sound of her breathing. I kept my eyes steady, not gloating, not mocking, just watching. My silence had become the loudest voice in the room and she couldn't bear it. Minutes stretched into an eternity. My sister avoided my gaze, avoided my brother's, and focused only on the lawyer, as if she could sway him with the same charm that worked on everyone else. But his face remained carved in stone. When the moment came and the test strip revealed its truth, the air snapped. The silence was suffocating, so heavy it pressed against my chest. My brother leaned forward, his eyes widening as the reality sank in. His lips parted, but no words came. The lawyer sat back slowly, folding his hands with the calm authority of someone who had seen many battles but knew this one was final. Me. For the first time in years I felt something lift. It wasn't joy, not yet. It wasn't victory in the way my sister had imagined hers, loud and cruel. It was quieter, deeper. It was the weight of humiliation I had carried all my life finally peeling away. My sister's face was a storm. She tried to laugh again, but the sound cracked. Then she grew angry, slamming her hand on the table. This is wrong. These things aren't always accurate. You can't judge me on this. Her words spilled out, frantic, each excuse weaker than the last. But the lawyer didn't budge. His voice cut through her desperation. Your father's instructions were clear. The condition was non-negotiable. Her shoulders collapsed inward as though the air had been punched out of her. She turned to my brother again, searching for his loyalty, but he looked away. That betrayal, silent and undeniable, was more than she could bear. The lawyer cleared his throat, drawing our attention back. He reached for the envelope, sliding out the second will. His voice was steady, formal, yet filled with the gravity of the moment. Your father's estate, by his final wishes, is entrusted to the heir who lives with dignity, honesty, and respect. That heir, he said, pausing deliberately, is you. His eyes flicked toward me. The words echoed, filling the hollow spaces where my confidence had once been stripped away. For a heartbeat I couldn't move. The world blurred around me, the years of whispers, the insults, the label of black sheep, collapsing under the weight of this truth. My sister's head snapped toward me, her eyes blazing. You're giving everything to her? She's nothing. She's always been nothing. The lawyer didn't even look at her. It is not for me to give. It was your father's decision. And it is final. Her fury ricocheted around the room, but it only made her smaller, her voice shriller, her presence weaker. My brother said nothing, his silence the final nail in her crumbling image. I inhaled slowly, my chest rising with a peace I had never known. I didn't gloat, didn't shout, didn't throw her words back at her. I didn't need to. The truth stood for itself. As I rose from my chair, the leather creaked softly, a sound almost drowned by my sister's ragged breathing. I placed my hand on the table for a moment, grounding myself, then straightened. For years I had been painted as the black sheep, the misfit, the disappointment, the one destined for nothing. But standing there I realized something profound. Being the black sheep had shielded me. It had kept me apart from their world of pretense, lies, and empty victories. My silence, once mocked, had become my armor. As I walked out of that office, the air outside felt fresher, the sky brighter. My father's voice seemed to echo in my heart, not the voice of a man who doubted me, but of one who knew me better than I thought. Justice had been written in bloodlines, not through cruelty or shouting, but through patience and truth. And for the first time I was free.